You know the feeling. We all do. You hear these huge promises on the campaign trail, and then what happens? It feels like there's this giant gap, right? A chasm between what was said and what actually gets done. Well, today we're not just going to talk about that gap. We're going to look at a serious plan to build a bridge right over it, a plan for real, concrete accountability.
I mean, really, what happens? A party wins your vote with this big, bold vision for the future, but then, silence. The follow-through just seems to disappear into thin air, and all the details get fuzzy. But here's the thing. This isn't just about feeling a little let down. It actually points to a much deeper, structural problem in our democracy.
So, the source material we're digging into today, which by the way was submitted as evidence to the UK Parliament, argues that this isn't just one single problem. It's actually a diagnosis of 6 separate but totally interconnected harms, or maybe a better word is cracks, that are weakening the very foundations of democracy. So let's break them down one by one.
Okay, so the first crack is what they call opacity. Think of it like a thick fog that rolls in the day after an election. We vote for a big idea, right? But then there's no clear public way to actually track that promise and compare it to what really happens. And if you can't measure it, well, how can you possibly hold anyone accountable for it?
Next up, harm number 2 is weak traceability. Think about it for a second. A massive new law gets passed. If it turns out to be a total disaster, who do you blame? On the flip side, if it's a huge success, who gets the credit? The problem is, when those lines of responsibility get all tangled up in the massive machinery of government, your vote, your democratic choice, gets disconnected from the actual outcome.
Harm number 3 is a loss of scrutiny. And this often happens because of something called skeleton bills. Imagine Parliament passes a bill to, say, improve healthcare. Sounds great, right? But the bill itself is just a bare-bones framework. All the crucial details, like how it's going to be improved or who it's going to affect, get filled in later by ministers way behind closed doors. And that completely guts the power of our elected representatives to check what's really being done in our name.
And that leads us perfectly into the fourth harm: weak answerability. You see, Parliament has these committees whose entire job is to investigate things and raise red flags. But what's the point if the government can just, ignore their findings or just plow ahead with a reform even after being warned over and over again? When that happens, the whole system of checks and balances just falls apart.
Now, this next one is really fascinating because it creates this kind of vicious cycle. Harm number 5 is normalized failure. Think about it. Massive, expensive reforms get rolled out all the time, but there's no formal system to actually check if they worked. Did they deliver on what was promised? A lot of the time, we just never find out. And if we don't know what failed and why, we're basically doomed to make the same mistakes again and again.
And all of this, it all builds up to the 6th and honestly the most personal harm: a deep, profound injury to public trust. We're told that our public services are there for everyone, that they're designed to protect us. But when someone, in their moment of greatest need, tries to use that system and finds it's broken or fragmented or just impossible to navigate, well, the problem isn't just about bad management anymore. It becomes a failure of democracy itself.
And let's be clear, this is not some abstract academic problem. A gap in accountability can have absolutely devastating human consequences. The source material uses a really stark number to drive this point home: 7,055 suicides in the UK in 2023. Now, to put that number into perspective, that's like 3 major airline disasters every single month. Yet it doesn't trigger that same kind of urgent, system-wide, we must fix this now response. That right there is the real-world cost when our systems fail to protect the very people they're supposed to serve.
Okay, so after diagnosing these 6 really serious harms, the source material does something absolutely crucial. It offers a prescription. It proposes a clear, practical tool that's designed to repair these cracks in our democracy. So let's take a look at what the solution actually is.
So the solution they're proposing is called a Public Implementation and Deliverables Record. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but think of it like this. It's a living document, a public-facing project plan for every single major government reform. It would create this clear, easy-to-follow trail that lets anyone track a policy all the way from that initial campaign promise to the final real-world outcome.
So what would this record actually have in it? Well, it's built on 6 key pillars. First, it would start with a clear purpose. What's the goal here? Why are we even doing this? Then it would define the deliverables. What specifically is going to be built or changed? It would also require an honest look at the risks, especially to people's rights and safety. And this is crucial. It establishes clear accountability. It literally names who is responsible.
It also mandates public reporting on the good, the bad, and the ugly outcomes. And finally, it tracks scrutiny, creating a permanent record of how the government responded or didn't respond to concerns. You can see how each of these pillars is designed to fill one of those cracks we were just talking about.
Now, it's really important to be clear about what this proposal isn't trying to do. This isn't about getting rid of political choice or tying a government's hands. As the source material puts it, the goal is to make sure democratic authority carries a clearer public trail of what was intended. In other words, go ahead, make your choices, but you have to make sure the public can follow every single step of the journey, from start to finish.
So, what's the upshot? If a system like this were actually put into place, what would really change? What would a more answerable government actually look like and feel like for all of us?
Well, the impact would be a total shift, really. From darkness into light. Those opaque promises would be replaced by clear deliverables that we could all see and track. Responsibility, which is so often spread so thin you can't pin it on anyone, would become clearly defined and accountable. All that scattered information would become a centralized public record for everyone to see. And that weak scrutiny? It would be replaced by powerful, strengthened answerability. It's a move from ambiguity to absolute clarity. So, what this all boils down to are 5 key benefits that all reinforce each other. First, by giving us, the voters, better information, it would start to rebuild that democratic trust. It would directly tackle those vague, skeleton bills by demanding clarity. And that, in turn, strengthens the whole culture of answerability, this core idea that governments must answer for their actions. And when you put all of that together, it actually protects the very integrity of our elections, making your vote so much more powerful. So, I think the ultimate takeaway here is that this could really shift the role of the citizen. With a tool like this, we could move from just being passive voters every few years to being active, informed watchdogs, able to follow the journey of every promise that shapes our country.
Which really leaves us with this final, crucial question to think about. We all agree that authority is won at the ballot box. But maybe the true test of a healthy democracy isn't just about winning power, it's about how that power is answered for every single day that follows.